Now, Austin, we're about to go on this podcast without a screenplay to do a recreation, and I'm going to need you to join me in winging it across this introduction.
Of course, yeah.
Okay, but you have to understand, like, I'm breaking a lot of rules here, and you can't swear, you can't do anything inappropriate. I could lose my job.
I don't talk like that, sir. It's no problem.
Okay, I just want to make sure. If there's something, let's just play it safe. If there's something you want to talk about off the air that you don't know if you should bring up or not, you let me know and I'll put a record on and we can discuss it off the air. Is that all right?
We'll do that. And if I forget my line, I'll let you know.
Okay. I'll do the line
And scene.
Welcome to the Picture Show, episode 11. My name is Phil Rood. I am the dad.
And I'm Austin Rood, and I'm pretty sure what you said is wrong.
I think I know what I'm talking about.
All right. And I'm the son, by the way.
And what do we do here, Austin?
What do? We watch a movie, and then we talk about it.
We talk about it right here.
On camera.
On camera?
Not camera.
Whoa!
On microphone.
Where's the cameras hidden?
They're all around you.
I knew my office was bugged. The mic was mine, but the cameras, someone's spying on me.
CIA, if you're watching this, say hi.
Say hi. Or aliens, if that is who is looking in on us.
Yes, they're always looking at us.
They're always looking at us. We are recording this week on our Montgomery Ward catalog tape recorder. It's brand new. We're just figuring out how to use it.
It's still new to it.
Making a biscuit, I think, is what we say. Anyway, we'll get into that a little bit more later. Austin, what have you been up to? You brought home some new DVDs last night.
I did.
Tell me about it.
The show Infinity Train.
I'm sorry if I said DVD and it's a Blu-ray. I don't
no,
mean to sell
it is
short.
a DVD.
Aha! DVD staying alive. All right.
I went to Target, and I wasn't even looking for anything, but...
We're not sponsored by Target. Please don't say their name.
Target.
Target.
It's off-brand. And I found not only the first season of Infinity Train, a Cartoon Network cartoon, but I found it for $10 with commentary and extras and behind-the-scenes art.
That's a DVD, all right.
And this is a show that it's not that popular, but its concept art kind of blew up, and that's what got the show started, some traction, and it's on its third season right now, and I've always wanted to watch it. I just haven't had the opportunity.
Interesting.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Now, Infinity Train, that's when Thanos joins the cast of Thomas the Tank Engine, right?
Yeah.
He becomes the new Mr. Conductor.
He has to get the 5 train cars to...
Well, he eliminates half of them. So,
Yes.
Immediately, it's a lot easier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just about it for me, though. What
Cool.
about you?
I took a reading day. I've not done much today. Like I said, we just behind the scenes. We're recording this right on the heels of our Cora.
You're not supposed
recording.
to tell them, Dad.
I know. Well, this is like the DVD extras. This is
Well,
the
okay,
behind the scenes.
okay.
So yeah, like nothing new as far as my viewing. I haven't really picked up anything. I haven't started watching anything else. I just took a day. I meant to do a little more reading than I did this weekend, so I sat down and put some hours in reading this morning. Did a little bit of 2001. I've been reading or rereading the Tao of Pooh. I recently re-got that book after my last copy went missing, so I'm having to retake all my notes. And
oh wow!
No, it's not a chore. I love the book. I love what it's saying. I love rediscovering things in there or discovering new things. So it's really cool.
It's fun to revisit a book like that.
A book like that, for sure. You know, that's not a story. It's like people...
philosophy lesson.
Sure, it's like people read the Bible, but they don't read it straight through like it's a novel. You know, you pick out...
What's your favorite chapter?
Right. I like the part. Yeah. So that's it. And then we watched our movie for today.
Yeah.
This week, we are talking about the 2019 Amazon original film, The Vast of Night. This movie stars Sierra McCormick, Jake Horowitz, Gail Cronauer, and Bruce Davis. It was written by Andrew Patterson and Craig W. Sanger, and it was directed by Andrew Patterson. This follows a switchboard operator and a radio DJ as they try to figure out what strange signals are affecting their town in 1950s New Mexico.
That's a pretty good description of the movie.
It's a encapsulation of a kind of quaint, small movie. It's a small description of a kind of a small movie about a big idea.
Yeah, this is an atmospheric type of movie.
Absolutely. This is a low budget science fiction movie.
Which it doesn't look low budget.
It looks great, but as far as like the scope of a science fiction movie, there's like one special effects shot in this entire movie. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like this isn't like a big bombastic alien invasion story. This is a very talky drama almost with a science fiction element to it.
I'd say that's right. We're back to, after Korra was just a in-between, we're back to your pick.
Right.
Why did you pick this movie?
I saw this movie a couple of months ago. This movie it's listed as 2019, but I think that's when it went to festivals. I don't think it hit Amazon until earlier this year. Or maybe late last year, but I didn't find it until, excuse me. I didn't find it until a few months ago. Your mom and I were just lazy Sundaying, flipping through Amazon, seeing what we could find. And we found this. We looked at the trailer for it. We're like, that looks interesting. Watched it. I really liked it. Loved it even more this time. I think it's just a really well-crafted, small movie. And I wanted to talk about it here. Number one, because I think it's an interesting movie to break down. And number two, I want to do the little small platform we have. I want to use this to sort of champion small movies that kind of get lost in the shuffle. And I feel like this is one of them.
I'd agree. I haven't even heard of this movie, and I'm glad we watched it today.
Right. And after I initially watched it, I know I said something about it on Twitter. I know at least one or two people that watched it on my recommendation there. I know at least one of them really enjoyed it. I got you to watch this. If I can get someone else to watch, if I can get more people to watch this movie, I think it's always, I'm not like trying to take credit for publicizing this movie.
We get it, Dad. You're an influencer.
I am, yes. Yes.
You're an Instagram influencer.
I'm trying to get to the next Fire Festival. But, no, I think when you find a small movie and it really strikes a chord with you, I think the best thing you can do for that movie is to go tell other people to watch it.
Word of mouth is a serious motivator in movies.
I think so. When we were starting Brokeback Mountain and first getting into like getting away from Westworld and starting to fill in with other science fiction movies, Carrie McGinnis and I watched this small movie we had kind of seen around but hadn't heard anyone talk about. It's called Robot and Frank. And we came away from that going, why are not more people talking about this movie? This movie is great. It's this great science fiction drama.
Right.
It's very heartfelt, very emotional. It's this really great little film.
Was that about the old man getting the robot caretaker?
Yes.
I remember watching that with you.
Did you watch it?
I don't remember if that was when you watched it for the show or maybe you watched it after with me.
I don't remember either, but I mean, like it's this really great movie that is this, small budget thing that as soon as we watched it, we went on the show and said, you guys need to watch this movie too. So That's what I want to do with this. When we find these little diamonds in the rough kind of movies, I wanted to talk about it. So that's why I said, I want to talk about Vast of Night. For one, I wanted you to see it. I wanted to watch it again. And I want more people to see it. So maybe it's I don't know, free advertising, something like. Call this a
Actually, they're getting charged in the mail for this. Call this Jeff Bezos, you're getting a bill.
You know, Jeff Bezos could afford to pay me for this. Call this publicity for a movie that I want people to see.
I think in the age of blockbusters, people are always saying, where are the independent movies? And it's like, they're out there.
Exactly.
You just have to look for them.
That's exactly right. They're not in the movie theaters anymore. Like, the movie theaters have been taken over by Disney and Warner Brothers. It's big franchise, blockbuster, billion-dollar movies. And that's fine. But we can't turn our back on all of these smaller movies that are also being made, that are being, you know, streaming is very good for independent filmmakers.
It's almost like home to video or straight to TV.
Straight to video, right, but there's I think there's still like this stigma about movies that go straight to video, like the Asylum pictures, you know, the knockoffs, the low budget action movies and things like that.
They think aren't gonna make money.
Right, and there's kind of a stigma against like art house movies and independent films that are like, oh well, this isn't good enough to get in a theater. It's pretentious, it's snooty, but like I think there's a lot of movies like this that are being made on sort of modest budgets that are being this is a super well-crafted movie.
It is. I feel like someone famous made it. Like, this director should be famous.
This director has, on IMDb, he has exactly one directing credit, which is this. He has exactly one writing credit, which is this. He is credited as an editor on this. He is credited as a producer. And he has one more. Some of them are under different names. Like, he wrote this under a different name.
Right.
But this is his only credit. Wow. His only movie that he's credited as working on. And it is one of those things where when you look at this and you look at how this movie turned out, it is a reason to champion this. I hope this guy makes more movies.
This needs to be a jumping off point for him.
For sure. And this is not just a jumping off point as though it's this poorly made demo reel that shows potential. This guy, I think, did great work. And he did it with clearly not a lot of money. He did it with this very small cast. He did it in a movie that is almost all exposition.
It is.
It's all people telling you events that happen.
It almost feels like a podcast.
I was going to say, in the age of podcasts and audio dramas coming back, like, it kind of makes sense that this could hit people, you know, right in the gut right now. And I think it's ripe for this movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But to do that and keep it interesting while still having visuals is, I think, really a feat. You know what I mean? Like, this isn't a podcast. You are engaged with it. You're watching it. You're following these characters as they run through town, as they steal cars and bicycles. And
it's an intense movie.
It really is. To keep you wrapped up in it when people are just talking. The part when Billy calls the radio station and is just telling his story.
Yeah.
You cannot look away from it. And it is just a guy on the radio telling you a story that happened to him.
At one point, it's basically a black screen.
Yeah, it fades completely to black, just like a podcast. You know, it becomes non-visual. But then the other one is the old lady, the interview with the old lady, who's not really that old. It was a terrible wig. But aside from that, she tells this very compelling story. And it's just a camera fixed on this old woman.
It doesn't cut for like 4 minutes, probably.
Right. There's a lot of long takes. There's a lot of long shots in this. And a lot of long drawn out dialogue. And a lot of very quick banter dialogue, like Aaron. I mean, you're in the middle of the West Wing. It's very like this quick back and forth. The very beginning of the movie, where they're walking through the
especially.
parking lot and they're doing walk and talks. I mean, that's all out of the Aaron Sorkin playbook. But it's great. I love it. You get about every third word, but it's enough.
And you don't even see people's faces most of the time.
Oh, that's the other thing I want to talk about is how this movie is shot. Like the first 20 minutes of the movie, we're not close up on anybody. Everything is taken from almost this, not a super wide shot, but like a mid to wide shot.
Right.
You don't get close up on the characters. You're watching them walk around. You're watching them interact.
It was a little jarring for like the first 3 minutes, and then I got into it, and it dragged me along with the rest of the plot.
Yeah. Yeah.
By the time they're walking around interviewing people with the
tape
microphone,
recorder,
by that point I'm fully invested and I want to see where this goes.
I think that is about right. I think you're confused a little bit at first, like why is he taking that kid's trombone? And then, you kind of just get like, oh, he's just pranking this kid. And then
he's just this popular guy on campus walking around.
Kind of. Yeah, he's kind of I don't know, you get the sense that everybody in town knows who this guy is. He's on the radio.
Right? It's a small town.
It is a small town, and it's very true to being in a small town. Like the community is gathering for this basketball game.
Right.
Which is very true to how it works in small towns. Like, that's what the town shows up for.
I can't attest to that, but you can.
I can. Yes, that is 100% true. And that, we see him, he's there to fix some electrical problem. And then there's a confusion about who was supposed to show up. No, not Everett, Emmett.
Yeah, it's the wrong name.
Yeah, it's so good. The back and forth between all the characters as they're just walking around. You're getting little snippets of people's lives. And then it breaks away about the time you catch up with what's going on. It breaks away, and it's Faye and I almost said Emmett. Faye and Everett walking down the street by themselves.
Yes. And
that's when everything quiets down and you're just following them, but the banter keeps going. And you are locked in with these two characters at that point.
It's so engaging. They were just having a conversation, and it was like I felt like I was a part of that conversation.
They were having a conversation that was essentially a commercial for Alexa.
Okay, yes.
That was not lost on me. I don't care. It really, I'm not bagging on the movie for it.
I thought it was a funny joke because he's like, oh, I can buy this high-speed train and this moving cars, but I can't buy this phone.
He couldn't picture FaceTime, right? Yeah, and...
The only thing he doesn't believe in is the thing that actually happened.
The thing we got, and the worst of all three of those. I hate FaceTime. I really do.
Okay.
No, I do think the way this movie is shot has a lot to do with why it's so engaging.
I think part of it is also the sound editing. I noticed, especially in that scene you're talking about, where they break off from the gym and they're just walking. There's like the footsteps and the shuffling and all that is almost as loud as their voices, and it all mixes together. It sounds really great.
Yeah, I'm sure the voices were ADR'd, and the ADR is really good. It's like that, like they recorded the conversation later.
Okay.
Like they're shot from behind. I'm sure they did it then, but then to get it clean, a lot of times they'll do it later.
Yeah, that's the smartest way to do it.
They'll re-record it. And a lot of times if you watch a movie, even big blockbuster movies, the ADR stands out. It doesn't match anything else in the scene. You know what I mean? Like, it's flat, the inflection isn't there.
It feels separate from what you're seeing.
You can tell it's added in. And this one, it all blended together really naturally. I think they did a really good job on the ADR in this movie.
I actually... I thought they were going to be abducted on the walk. Like, I came in...
Oh, you thought they were going to cut right to it.
Well, yeah, I came in thinking, oh, this is a UFO movie. oh, they're breaking off from everyone, they're walking alone, we're kind of just watching them talk, this is a nothing scene.
Right.
I kept waiting for the shoe to drop and for a giant beam of light to come down.
Well, maybe that's part of what makes this movie work, is that you're constantly waiting for a reveal, for some proof that is not just somebody's testimonial. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, this movie's the slow burn. This movie is they don't reveal anything until the very end.
We are on the same search for proof that the main characters
right.
are on.
We're going right along with them. Before we get too deep down any other rabbit hole that we're about to break off here, let's take a break and drop an ad in here, and then we'll come back and we'll do the deep dive.
Let's do it.
All right. We're back.
We are.
We did not abandon this place like Faye did to the town switchboard.
Yes.
Like Everett did to his radio station.
We are committed to our jobs, unlike some people.
Unlike some people who go off chasing UFOs
and get what's coming to them.
Wow. Ooh, is this Jeff Bezos being the ultimate capitalist, saying this is what you get for not just going to work and working for the man?
Oh, wow.
Ooh, separate
That's
level.
something.
That may be why he championed this
Are
movie.
we supporting propaganda right now?
I don't know. I do feel bad for watching something on Amazon, but this movie's great.
It is.
Let me just start with the way the movie starts and the way the movie ends and these weird little interstitials in between. This idea that this story is being presented on a 1950s television show, like a Twilight Zone kind of anthology show or movie of the week or something like that.
Right.
What did you think of that?
That's the one part of the movie I hated.
Same.
It took me out of the movie, especially when they put that weird filter on.
Yeah.
It also didn't make sense because this whole thing is being recorded on audio. So why wasn't it just a tape recorder playing?
If you wanted to do like a found footage kind of
Exactly.
thing. Yeah, no, that makes a lot more sense. But I didn't really understand what the point of that was. I get sometimes they would cut to it when there's like some sort of shift in time, some sort of montage, some sort of,
Right.
They want to show the passage of time, but I'm like, we get that without the weird black and white filter.
I think it was some sort of gimmick that he'd committed to early on in his idea process and just wouldn't let go. Because it constantly is, not constantly, because it only happens a few times, but every time it stops the pacing of the story and we're like back at square one.
I think it does sort of detract from the movie. It makes me wonder if this was a planned series or a series of movies. You know what I mean? Like, is one going to come out every year, and is this going to be the thing that identifies it as part of this series?
The Vast of Night anthology.
Like an anthology series, yeah. Like, or an anthology, like the Halloween franchise was, at a certain point, they were going to make that an anthology series of movies. Like, they weren't
a very messy anthology.
It was going to be, they made part 1 and part 2, and then they got to part 3, and they're like, let's do something. It doesn't have Michael Myers in it. It doesn't have anything. They did something completely different because they were planning to go, we're just going to make these Halloween movies, and they're not about Michael Myers. That was one story. Now we're doing another story, and next time we'll do another. And like Halloween 3 was so bad that they just went back to Michael Myers. But like,
it was a cool idea, though.
The idea of doing a franchise as an anthology, and it makes me wonder if this is going to be that, or if it was planned to be that, because I cannot figure any other reason to do this weird TV show wraparound.
It's just a little disconnected from the rest of the movie.
It's gimmicky.
It is.
And I like the look of this movie as it's shot in color. I like it. It looks kind of old the colors, the saturation, the lighting.
There's a lot of blue and green and dark black.
Right, but it's not so black that you don't see anything. Everything is very tinted and saturated just right. And when they cut away from that, I'm like, you've shot a beautiful movie, and we're not being allowed to see that now.
I want to go back to it.
We're right, and then it does help that when they do go back to that, you welcome it that much more, and you notice how beautifully it's shot. Maybe that's it. Maybe they were just showing off, like, look what our lighting guy did. Look how well we color corrected this.
Ruining parts of your movie to let the other ones shine.
Make the rest stand out. But no, it is such a weird gimmick that I didn't get. It doesn't sync the movie for me. I just didn't care for it.
It's like 3 minutes of screen time tops.
Right. It's bizarre. And it is also credited as a teleplay, not a screenplay. So
really?
And I don't know if that's to fit the old-timey aesthetic of this 1950s TV show, like this is a TV movie, or if this was intended to be a TV series. There's a lot of confusing things based on this round television set that they kept showing.
We're going to have to wait until he releases another movie.
I would love to see him do another movie of 1950s science fiction, through today's lens. I would love it.
It would be cool. And The Vast of Night is a vague enough title that could be used for a lot of different things.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's essentially, you talk about what's out in the night sky, it could be anything,
Right.
Which is basically what this movie is wondering, is something up there?
Yes.
This is also a great time for this kind of science fiction. It takes place in New Mexico, and it's
famous for its alien
famous
UFOs.
for its right Area 51 and Roswell.
Roswell, yeah.
The Roswell crash was, I don't know when in the 50s this takes place, but I'd say around 10 years prior was the Roswell crash. Sputnik, the Cold War was happening.
They mention a lot
of paranoia about, signal, what's going on in space. The Russians have something in space. The Russians are invading it. At one point, Everett thinks this is a precursor to a Russian invasion. Which
he says the South is where they're going to hit first.
They come over the southern border, and like that's... there was so much paranoia at this time that it's like, yeah, he would be one of these like conspiracy guys who is paranoid about a Russian invasion. Like that was probably a pretty common fear.
That's part of the setting playing into the paranoia this movie is trying to give us as audience members.
Right. It adds to the tension, I think.
Right. I also want to talk about one gimmick that stuck out to me. They don't say the word alien or UFO in this entire movie. And that's a problem to me.
Why is that a problem to you?
Because it's the same thing with, like, I Am Legend not wanting to say vampire, or The Walking Dead not wanting to say zombie. This is... Yes, it's a silly word, or it has these concepts and other stories attached to it, but don't be afraid to call it what it is. This is a movie about aliens. And I don't think using the word alien, I feel like they were afraid to. Like, oh, that makes this movie less serious. But pay homage to, like, the concepts of the past that you're building on here.
Sure.
It's a minor thing. It's just a problem I have with...
I don't think it's quite the same as the Walking Dead thing. I think part of what we're dealing with in this movie is skepticism and people looking for anything except this UFO explanation. Even like Billy, who calls in, says, I don't know for sure what this thing was. It wasn't ours. Here's this weird signal that's coming from places that we are unable to fly to. He has an idea of what it is, but I think there's a reluctance to say it out loud. Everett is a out-and-out skeptic. who doesn't, he doesn't believe right up to the end.
Yeah.
I think Faye wants to believe in it, but she's a little afraid to say. I think everybody's kind of reluctant to say it out loud.
I thought the one person who would say it was the old lady.
The old woman, right.
And then she stuck with the people in the sky.
The people in the sky.
Which is a cool phrase, but I just would have liked aliens.
I don't know how, and I really don't. I don't know how much people were using the terms like UFO outside of science fiction and, out and out fantastical stories. I don't know how much people were saying UFO. Maybe like the military would say it because it is an official designation. It's an unidentified. I don't know how many people were saying things like alien, extraterrestrial, or just, hey, something's out there in the sky. I think it was a really unsure time.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe it was. Maybe I'm completely wrong, and maybe I don't.
That's a fair explanation, though.
And I don't think you have an invalid point. It's a little weird they didn't say it. I like to think that this is just about small town people not wanting to seem like they're crazy, because small town people hold back on things because small towns talk about people. And if you're the crazy alien guy, nobody wants to be labeled.
You don't want to be that. Yeah.
Nobody wants to be the crazy alien guy, even if you've seen an alien. You know what I mean?
I kind of would, but
well, it's one of those things when people claim that they've seen an alien, today.
Yeah.
Or they've seen a UFO, or they've seen a ghost. I kind of go, I believe that you at least believe you've seen a ghost. Because I don't think anybody is going to say that because they know it gets them labeled as a crazy person.
No one would subject themselves to that.
Exactly. I think people who make outrageous claims, there is some basis in, you've experienced something. And this is the conclusion you've drawn. And you've experienced something fantastical a lot of times. I think there's a lot of unexplained things. We're going to get into my crazy. You can think what you want to about me, including my small hometown of Shabbona, Illinois. Please feel free. I'm sure I've been talked about already. I don't out and out believe in any specific thing necessarily, but I believe in the possibility of a lot of fantastical things.
For instance?
For instance, I don't necessarily believe straight up in the skunk ape or in Bigfoot, but I believe there is a possibility that there is such a thing as a skunk ape or a Bigfoot. I have heard people testify that they have seen Bigfoot, that they have encountered Bigfoot in some way, and I believe that person has, at the very least, encountered something very on the outskirts of normal.
Yes.
On the outskirts of supernatural. On the outskirts of what we would consider a normal experience. And that's the conclusion that they've come to. It may be that they are 100% right. It could be they're interpreting something else wrong. But it all points to there's something bigger than just what we know.
Yeah. I've heard a theory that certain, not all, but certain people who have experienced UFO abductions, or say they have, it's actually a repressed memory from surgery. They've had surgery and maybe they woke up, or maybe just their brain processed it even though they were under anesthesia.
Yes, there's always a very rational scientific explanation for things.
I'm not trying to dismiss your ideas.
No. I think there's a lot of value in having an open mind about things. I'm not dismissing scientific explanations either, but I think sometimes they are made to make us feel better.
I believe in aliens. I just don't think they've been to Earth, because why would they hide it?
Did you not just watch this movie?
Yes, this documentary.
Because they don't like large crowds. Weren't you listening to the old lady in the bad wig?
Okay. I just don't think an advanced enough civilization to come to Earth would hide themselves or only show themselves to a few specific people. I just feel like that's flawed logic.
That's fine. I'm not.
Yeah.
But if it was like just a ship coming down to scout things out, like the Roswell crash.
What, like
just checking it out, like
Han Solo just going on a
someone they send like
landing.
an advanced. Hey, go take a look at this. They can't fly as high as us. Don't worry about it. You can make it. And then they flew down here because that's what I think. A lot of this, whether intentional or not, this is how I interpret this movie. Is that these Billy, the guy who called into the radio station,
right?
That was the Roswell crash.
That makes sense, yeah.
And that like these signals since then are aliens coming back for the lost Roswell aliens.
Oh, that's interesting.
That's not entirely. It doesn't entirely line up.
Except for the fact that the old woman,
the old woman's little boy,
first,
right? I mean, but that they have been coming here, and maybe because, well, maybe that whole thing doesn't work because, New Mexico is just like a sparsely populated enough place at the time that maybe that's why they just frequently have come there.
Yeah. What was it was Texas too, right? They mentioned the river that makes up the border of Texas and
the
Mexico.
Rio Grande?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Billy said something about he was telling the story of other people telling the story to him.
Oh, okay.
Who had worked on teams similar to him.
Other teams, right. Yeah. Right, yeah, I mean, the Southwest then. So, like,
sure.
It's all of that. But no, I think, I don't want to get off on this, like, what do you believe? But,
we're turning into an alien podcast.
I do want, well, that's going to tie into my shout out this week. But, no, to bring it back to the movie, I think the movie presents these possibilities in the best possible way. These are two kids who are running around this small town who I like that they hammer on how small this town is. You know, Everett's like, I want to get out of here. And Faye's like, I want to get out of here when I'm old enough. You know what I mean? Like, Everybody wants to leave this town. Nothing happens in a small town. It's this quiet, sleepy town. There's no adventure. There's no anything. So this thing sparks up. Something happens in a small town. Whether it's like, when I was in high school, there was a cougar, a mountain lion, some sort of like big cat around our town.
Right.
Our town went apeshit crazy. Our town was so paranoid of this big cat. People saw it. People reported it to the cops. I went outside and I saw tracks in the snow one time.
Ooh, wow.
And it turned out like it counted the toes. I'm pretty sure they were like neighborhood dog tracks, but like they were. But it was like, but that's just it. You would see a dog track, a big dog paw print, and that was where your mind went. You were so hungry for something exciting to happen in this town.
It's like they bring it up constantly in this movie that some animal chewed through a wire in the high school, and it happened like 20 years ago.
Here's an event. And, it's a story that keeps being told because it's something, hey, here's something crazy that happened. A squirrel chewed through the wire. Oh, it was a chipmunk. Like, everybody has to know. Right. But, like, this idea of something big happening in a town, in a small town, or just the hint of something big, it drives them to run around. They even hook up with that other couple who is doing the same thing. Everybody is so hungry for something exciting to happen that they're out chasing down this sound in the sky.
I think it's also partly because they're kids. I mean, the couple were adults, but their imagination they're so much more open to any possibility of what this could be. Even if Emmett, was that his name?
Everett.
Everett.
Yeah.
Even if he was skeptical, he still wanted something to be happening.
Right. Well, yeah, that's it exactly. He's skeptical about it, and I think he wants to prove that it's not this thing. And I think Faye kind of wants to prove that it is this thing. It's like an X-Files thing. You know, the X-Files had a skeptic and a believer, and that was the whole point was...
Right.
You know...
Even after 5 seasons, I don't know how you're still skeptical.
I watched a bunch of it. I didn't watch enough of it to know if she ever got swung up. But that was always like... They're constantly being challenged by each other, by the evidence, by this, by that. And it made it interesting instead of having 2 ghost hunters running around who really want to see a ghost. You have to have some balance to it. There's a podcast I listen to called Me and Paranormal You. Ryan Singer, he's a comedian, and he says multiple times the skeptic is the paranormal investigator's best friend. It keeps it grounded.
Right.
You
have to have someone to keep you in check.
It lets you know they ask the right questions to bring, and it's a balance. So I like that that's the balance here, and that Faye is a young girl. Let's face it, young girls from small town New Mexico in the 1950s, probably not a lot of prospect. You know, like...
Sure. She even says she can't go to college.
I can't go to college. She's... Her mom's like working... Her mom's like a single mom. And there's a lot of dependence on other people at this time. Like, this idea that she wants something bigger. She wants something more important.
Even if it's as simple as just doing the same job in a bigger place.
Right. But in here, when there's a nugget of a mystery, she wants to run it down. This is a good, by all accounts, this good girl steals a bicycle, breaks into the library, steals a bunch of tapes out of the library.
Yeah.
She does things that normally you get the sense this character would never do. Like she calls Everett out for being dishonest multiple times for stealing that kid's trombone. Like, she doesn't judge him. She's not nasty to him, but she's just sort of like, well, that's dishonest.
She's got this instinct.
Right. She's got this good, honest instinct. But, she's like, when he picks her up in the car that he stole, which is so great that, like, he just takes this old man's car.
Oh, it's hilarious.
And then she goes, I stole a bicycle. She's so excited that she did something wrong.
She's got an adrenaline
But
rush.
she feels right, and she feels justified in doing it because she's chasing this thing down.
This whole alien metaphor seems like an escapism thing. Like
alien metaphor. That's interesting you say that. What do you think it's a metaphor for?
For escapism. Like
for her escaping the town, or for just the idea of something bigger than...
Both. Both of these characters want out of their life. They want out of this town. They want something bigger. They want something else. And this alien mystery comes along, and that's their key out. Even if it's not something they ever thought of before. It's like, okay, this is our way out. And then they see the old woman who seems kind of crazy, and she hasn't gotten out because of this. And I feel like that's what pushes him away from it. Like, he doesn't like her story because...
Interesting.
He sees that she's stuck in the story rather than actually escaping.
Yeah, I also think Everett just doesn't believe. I think he believes it is a Russian invasion. I think he's intrigued by the mystery. And I think he wants to know the truth. But ultimately, I don't think he doesn't believe her because it discourages him from leaving. I think he just straight up doesn't believe her. He says to her something like, I'm sorry for all the things that happened in your life that make you think this is what caused them.
Right.
Like, it's very dismissive.
I could be stretching it a bit.
But, no, it's interesting because I didn't take it as they see this mystery and they say, this is our ticket out of this town. I see it as this mystery shows up and it's something exciting happening in this town. It's not about them leaving the town at that point. It's about them having something to do there and having something big to chase and wanting to know the truth. You know the truth of a small town when you live there.
Yeah.
Here's an unknown. Here's something big that's coming in. You don't know what it is. Let's go figure this out. And I think it's sort of a call to adventure kind of thing that is really exciting. And I think it plays out in a really fun and exciting way. Does that make sense? Or
yeah, no, it makes sense. I'm just...
As opposed to being this inspiration for them to leave the town, they wanted to leave the town.
And now they wanted to sort of stay.
They still do. But
well,
I think they're driven by this noise just because it's something new in the town and it is a big mystery. And it sort of wakes up this adventure in them.
If that were the case, though, I feel like they leave at the end. It's a bit ambiguous, but they get picked up by the UFO.
Right.
So that is them leaving. They don't stay in the small town.
No, they do leave the town. I don't think they left by choice, but
Sure. They chose to keep going.
Sure, they do leave the town. Right. Yes, they could have gone and huddled with the rest of the crowd at the gym and been safe, or just hunkered down until, the basketball game was over.
Right.
And then they'd be okay. But they did. They chose to chase down the UFO. They chose to go looking for it. You steal the camera, and there's something so exciting when she goes, "There's something in the sky," and he's like, "Don't tell people that."
Yeah.
But like...
Keep it to ourselves.
But he wonders too. And then, they get in the car with the other couple. It's all just... I think it's such a great series of events that lets you know so much about the characters. It clues you into so much mystery about the universe. And it's just such a well-told, economical science fiction story.
It really is well told. Like...
whatever your takeaway... I think we're having two different takeaways from this movie. They're similar. Is fine. There's overlap. Yeah. Right. But I think whatever your takeaway from this movie is, what it comes back to, and what I see in this movie... I'm sorry, I'm just bulldozing you through this entire thing. This movie is made for not a lot of money. It's just a well-written, well-crafted film. And I think we're showing right now, it sparks so much conversation.
It
both
does.
In the interpretation of this movie and what do we really believe? I mean, we've gotten off track about, do we believe in fucking Bigfoot? It's just like this movie is an almost perfect science fiction movie in that it's not reliant on anything except what it presents, and it challenges you in your brain to face what this movie is saying.
Sure. And I don't even think it matters what the conclusion is that you come to, because it's just fun to be along for the ride. Yes.
It's
so entertaining.
It's such a well-crafted film. I mean, we 2 episodes ago, we're talking about 2001, one of the most complex science fiction studies of humanity ever. And that is such a wide-scope movie. This is sort of the antithesis of that, where it's such
pinpointed.
Yes, it is such... It is 2 characters. I mean, this movie, I read 4 names, the 4 big speaking roles.
Yeah.
But really, it's Faye and Everett, and we're watching them throughout this movie, and it is just fantastic to watch these 2 insanely likable characters who have a chemistry that works really well.
It's really interesting.
They get along, chemistry. But they also butt heads.
Yeah.
She, I think, has a crush on him.
It's like unlikely friends.
But she's not dependent on this crush on him. I think she just has like a schoolgirl crush on Everett, but they are friends, but also not necessarily close, but they just sort of end up together. Not in a romantic way. They just end up on this adventure together. And I think it's so well presented in that way that, yes, this is a big idea driven by two characters in a small town.
And it's also, I like that he brings out, like, she starts this story very shy. And she's still not exactly like this crazy outgoing social butterfly at the end.
Right.
But she is asking questions. She's yelling at people. She's standing up to him. And she is being pushed by him.
Right. There's just this great kind of throwaway 2 or 3 lines where she goes, I brought my tape recorder. And he tells her, like, that's not a real tape, you know. He's like, that's kind of like a toy, you know?
Yeah.
And he goes, I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. He goes, sometimes I hurt girls' feelings. And she just pauses for a second and she goes, maybe if you weren't such a jerk all the time. Like,
right.
She really, like, she leans into him a little bit and is like, you're not always super nice. You know,
You're
like,
kind of full of yourself.
You need to think before you talk. And it's just a really good dynamic. And I think these two actors had the right chemistry and really worked well together, worked well off of each other.
One thing that I also thought was interesting was the old lady's theory that these aliens are sort of manipulating the human world around.
That was interesting. Yeah.
I feel like that kind of took away from, oh, they're just visiting. Oh, they're just in this small town. It was like, why do we need this explanation of they're starting wars and they're manipulating our governments?
I don't know. I mean, that was like, she also pointed that out as like an extreme version of what they do. She
Right.
also kind of pointed at, like, I think it was the idea that they can get in our heads, you know, because she basically said, you know, these things were in my child's head. You know, they sort of hypnotized her child.
Yeah.
And it led her to believe, like, oh, maybe they kind of hypnotize all of us to be into these superficial things like fashion. And, you know, like, it's very self-centered. You know, it was sort of like, I don't know if the movie was trying to say something about, look how self-centered we are. This may be why. We're manipulated to be this way. So that we don't notice them. You know what I mean? Because, I mean, you talk to somebody about the Roswell crash and theories about aliens. They may find it interesting for a little while. But most people are like, look, I don't see aliens. This doesn't affect my everyday life. I mean,
it was a weather balloon.
I mean, you talk to people about a lot of current events, a lot of political and racial things that are happening in this country. And you go talk to, like, a straight white guy, 9 out of 10 of them are just completely unaffected by it. You know,
people who have the luxury to say, I'm not into politics.
I don't want to talk about this. I don't want to think about it. I'm guilty of that as well. You know, even people with empathy who are siding on the right side, you know, things that don't affect us directly, you do have the luxury to step back from it and remain self-centered. I'm not holding myself above that. I'm as guilty of it as anybody else. But, like, it is pointing to the self-centered nature of people. And I think that more than anything was why it was brought up. But it did just seem like, oh, here's a story about a hypnotized little boy who walks away, like Close Encounters. And then it comes like a global conspiracy theory. And it does, it does blow up.
Maybe it's partly that this woman has also been thinking about it too much.
She does say that.
She's had all this time, and, like, it's not just like she went out searching for it. She just sat with it and stewed and kept thinking, and her whole world revolves around these aliens, and so all this bad stuff that she sees going on in the real world, she's like, that must be the aliens too.
Right.
So it's just a manipulated, clouded sort of view.
She does say that she spent her entire life thinking about this. You know, she's the crazy old lady who just sits and thinks about this, and people think she murdered her son. And it is sort of this really bizarre tale she tells.
It's very sad.
But it informs the rest. It's also there are bits and pieces of other sci-fi movies. Like, there are things about the obsession of UFOs. That's the entire plot of, like, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. It's just about being obsessed with this sort of psychic vision of aliens. And that's why I love Close Encounters. But this movie sort of boils all the fat off of it and just presents the most bare bones version of that. And I think that's why I love this movie too. Like,
I can't speak on that because I haven't seen that movie.
Well, I'm not criticizing it as like saying, oh, it ripped off Close Encounters. I'm saying, like, it presents a very similar idea. And because I like Close Encounters, I think it leads to me liking this movie, because some of the same ideas about being obsessed with UFOs and finding the truth about UFOs it's a parallel.
Sure.
But, whereas Close Encounters is 2.5, 3 hours, giant Spielberg blockbuster epic, this is the most bare bones version of that. And I think
this movie is only an hour and a half long, it feels longer.
It's an hour and a half. It doesn't feel longer in a bad way, I don't think.
I don't think so.
I think it's keeps you engaged is what it is. You lose track of time.
I feel like I lived that whole night with them.
But it really does. You follow them through it, and we see the whole town. There's that one long tracking shot that runs through the whole town.
I thought that was really cool, and it connected both the characters.
Right. And did you know how they did that, by the way?
No.
They put the camera on a go-kart, and they drove this go-kart through this entire town.
I was interested in what they did with like the gym, the way it was circling around people.
Yeah, I don't know how they did that because it's connected to it. It's got to be a trick in there somewhere. But like,
I felt like there was a crane too, because come down from the window.
They go through the window and back out.
It was very smooth at that.
I think there's some transition in there. It's not a continuous shot. I think the gym is its own thing.
Right.
And then they connect the two. Like, did you watch Birdman?
No, not yet.
Birdman is made to look like it's one continuous shot beginning to end.
But it's not.
But it doesn't matter because the effect is the same. It's still super compelling.
Sure. We have the technology to do that. You don't have to waste years of your life trying to get 2 hours perfectly on a camera.
People do it all the time. People will see, oh, Halloween, it's not a continuous shot. It's like, no, but the effect is, yes, we understand.
It doesn't matter.
The effect of a long tracking shot is the same, whether it's really that long or whether they used a trick to stitch some together. It works, and it attaches you to the characters as they're moving.
Yes, with long shots specifically, people nitpick them so much, and
it's gotten to be
it's
terrible.
So confusing.
Yeah.
Just enjoy it.
Just enjoy
I don't get it.
Exactly. Like, we know what they're trying to do. Nobody's trying to fool you. Like,
pause it right there. I saw the
catch
cut.
them. You don't get to sue them as some
false advertising.
You're missing the whole point here. But you're right. The way they do it here, where it connects the characters, it's brilliant. It's a brilliant way to show the geography of the town and to connect the characters together who are in opposite places in the town.
And they also do it at a point where they're just waiting.
They're waiting. They're both outside smoking.
It's such a perfect bookend.
It is.
It's just beautiful.
It's really solid. And I think that sort of encapsulates this whole movie. I think this movie is just a beautifully... I don't want to sell it as simple, but it's a small movie.
The direction works in tandem with the writing, but I feel like it's meant to focus on the writing. Like, that's
on the
mostly
dialogue,
what I was focused on.
Absolutely, and I just think all the moving parts work together in this movie so perfectly that it brings together this small movie in a really beautiful way. I think they're trying to say something. I think there's a couple stumbling blocks, like the gimmicky wraparound stuff.
And I'm willing to forgive it.
And it doesn't kill the movie. The rest of this movie is so well put together that I really hope that we see more from Andrew Patterson, either in a writing or in a directing capacity.
I'll take anything.
I would watch these two actors. I'm sorry, I'm terrible with names. Sierra McCormick, Jake Horowitz. I think they're both great in this movie.
They could be like leading
actors.
These
These actors work. They're young. They've been working for years.
They've got careers ahead of them.
Sierra McCormick has a couple episodes of one of your favorite shows, Supernatural. She
really?
Yep. She had to have been,
I totally know what
Lily, I think.
Lilith. She's a little girl demon.
Okay. Yeah, that's her.
Interesting.
Take away the horn rim glasses. I did her IMDb pictures. I mean, she looks like a 50s era schoolgirl in this, but like, yeah, take that away from her and you're like, oh yeah, I've seen her on stuff and
it's fun to do that.
It's everybody's hiding behind big, thick 50s glasses.
Which I love. I love thick glasses.
The look of this movie is great. I love the 1950s aesthetic, the cars, the
They didn't go too overboard with it, minus the TV thing.
No, they weren't overboard, no. They weren't ever winking at you going, hey, remember these things?
It wasn't Stranger Things.
But it was so cool. Right. It was so cool to see an old switchboard, an old radio station with reel-to-reel tape decks.
The switchboard was honestly, like, that 5 minutes of her just working it was fascinating to me.
It's something most of us have never gotten to see. Yeah, I don't know either. It's all... That's why I asked you while we were watching, do you understand what her job is?
I knew what she was doing. I just didn't know how it worked.
I wasn't trying to be belittling to you because that technology was outdated by the time I was a kid. Well, like, we didn't see that stuff.
Right. It's natural to not know. I don't know how to make a fire with rocks and sticks either because I don't need to do that.
I don't know how to spool up a reel-to-reel tape deck, like...
Oh, really?
I could probably figure it out, but I've never done it. I've seen a reel-to-reel, but I've never messed around with it. So seeing all that old equipment, seeing an old radio station, I thought was really cool. And I think if it wasn't done right, I don't know. You know what I mean?
There's some old lady who watched that and she was like, actually...
Some old switchboard operator who was, like...
She has to push up her glasses. Actually,
Or some 50s DJ who's like...
You have to click a dial here or something.
But it was really cool. It was the set decoration was great. The old high school gym looked exactly like an old small town gym. With
smoking indoors?
Smoking indoors was still a thing when I was in school, yeah.
But on school property was like...
It happened on school property too. The smokers, when I was in high school, there was... smoking section in the front office.
Oh my God.
Where grown-ups could go out and smoke, or you could go smoke in the parking lot. When I was a little kid in the grocery store, I plainly remember ashtrays at the end of every aisle because people smoked as they walked through. And you had to have a place to flick your ash or put your butt out. Yep, people smoked everywhere back in the day. And in the 50s... It's a
little gross.
In the 50s, even more. He's just walking through the gym smoking.
Yeah. And I found it interesting that she lied about smoking.
Yeah.
She was like, no, I don't smoke. I'm using this as a prop. But then when no one's around...
When she had a minute down, she had one stashed somewhere. But, yeah, it was... I will say it is weird to see smoking in a movie. A lot of that in movies has gone away. I think Mad Men was the last thing I watched that had a lot of smoking in it.
People are trying not to glorify it.
Exactly. And I'm not knocking that. I'm just saying it's a little strange to see it on screen.
And I don't think this movie glorified it. I just think it was a cool little design choice.
I think it was just to add to, hey, it was the 1950s. Everybody smoked.
Yeah. We're not going to pretend they didn't.
Exactly. And it does take him, whoa, the smoking? Really? But,
yeah.
Yeah. On that, one more note, I just want to say the score. I almost never notice movie scores unless they're really good. I really like the score, too.
Yeah, I mainly noticed it just in the long shot.
Yeah, there's this sort of it's a kind of minimal thing. There's a piano version. I think there's one with strings, maybe like a quartet.
There's also when they're in the car.
Yeah.
A lot of the times there's this.
They're playing it then,
repeating. Yeah.
But it drops. It's used very sparingly. It drops in at just the right time. I think it's really solid. Every little element of this movie really works for me.
Yeah, and they don't have to use a lot of it.
Yeah, it's a minimalist movie that looks really great and tells its story.
I think this director knows what he's doing.
I think so as well. I think that whatever they did, I hope they keep doing it.
Yes.
Is that it? You got anything else you wanted to hit on?
I think that's about it.
Go see this movie, please. It is on Amazon Prime. I'm sure you can buy it on or rent it on other services, but it is an Amazon movie, so it is on Prime. I know some people have...
There are ethical
reasons to not use Amazon. I'm not going to bag on anybody for that. I try not to use them as much as I can, but if you do have Prime, if you do have access to this
Prime
movie...
Video does honestly have, just as a studio, they support a lot of good indie movies.
A lot of indie filmmakers are able to get their movies seen because they have a program for indie filmmakers. My cousin Ben Rood has his movie on there.
We might have to review that.
We may have to take a look at that. But I know for a fact he's talked about that he, it's a really good program for getting even his micro budget movie. He was able to get that made. That's called Don't Run, by the way. It's a micro budget horror movie, and he's able to get that scene. He's able to make a little bit of scratch from it and have it seen and sort of springboard into other projects from there. So it's really cool to be able to have a platform for independent artists like that.
Good to know Amazon treats some people well.
I wish I do so for their employees. But on that note, I want to wholeheartedly recommend this movie. If you have access to it and if you are able, please check it out. It is a really well-made film, and I just can't champion it enough.
You're not wasting your time. It's an amazing movie.
We're going to close that out, and let's move on to shout-outs. Do you have one, or you want me to go?
You can go first.
All right. I mentioned it earlier. It's called Me and Paranormal You. It's a podcast with Ryan Singer. He is a comedian in L.A., and he basically talks about all things paranormal. People have come on and shared their experiences. He shared his experiences. He has claimed to have a Bigfoot encounter in Florida. He claims to have slept with a shapeshifter who changed form while in bed with him.
Sounds fun.
It's all... Look, you can believe as much or as little of it as you want to. I mean, he talks about very practical things like yoga and meditation. Very, very, he hikes a lot, talks about being in nature. Here's these things. Here's his perspective on this. But the fantastical, he talks about theories like the holographic universe theory. I first heard about that there.
Okay.
Things that are unproven but are just sort of big ideas. I approach it all as this is an exercise in being open-minded. You don't have to wholeheartedly believe everything he says. I've heard him in other interviews, they go, "Do you believe everything that people tell you?" And he goes, "Well, keep a foot on the ground." Like this really pretty practical, like be open-minded.
Give everything
but
the
don't
benefit of the doubt.
dive into everything. I'm not telling you to believe everything that somebody tells them on there. But like I said earlier, if somebody says they had this experience, know that to them they may have had that experience.
Right.
It may not be,
And even if you don't believe, and entertainment value is still found.
The idea of being open-minded enough to at least listen to somebody's story, I think, is invaluable in a time when we're more closed-minded than ever.
Yes.
This isn't a political show. This isn't anything like that. He has talked about Black Lives Matter. He said some very... he's articulated some things that I have trouble forming, my thoughts. And it's been very helpful. I think Ryan Singer is a very unique and very interesting comedian. Even his comedy albums, he talks about some weird shit. But he's very interesting. He's very unique. And it's a great exercise in keeping an open mind. And just, I think it links up to this movie perfectly. So I want to make that recommendation. Give him a listen. Me and Paranormal You. It's a really interesting show. He's been doing it for a few years. Tons of episodes. Huge back catalog.
That's very on theme for this episode.
I think so. I think it'd fit.
Mine's not as much, but
that's fine.
Last week I gave a shout out to John Green's podcast, The Anthropocene Reviewed, right. And this week I am giving a shout out to his brother, Hank Green. Together they run a YouTube channel where it's called Crash Course. A lot of, if you're in America, you've probably seen one of their videos.
It sounds familiar.
They're educators.
Okay.
And so his TikTok specifically, Hank Green 1, is a fun place where you can get science videos, sometimes politics, mostly just silly pelican or random biology facts.
Okay.
It's really entertaining.
All right.
Yeah.
One more time?
Hank Green 1.
Okay. That's going to wrap us up this week. I want to thank you guys for listening to this episode of The Picture Show with Austin and Phil Rood. If you enjoy it, please leave a review on your podcatcher of choice. It really helps our visibility, and it helps us grow the show.
If you want to help our show grow even more, you can tell a friend about us or post on social media. It really helps us out.
Austin, you have the wheel next week. It's your pick. What do you got for us?
We're going to be watching Jojo Rabbit.
Jojo Rabbit.
Yes.
Awesome. I have yet to see it, but yeah, it's been on my list. We'll take a look at it.
Taika Waititi. Great director. Great comedian. Well done.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Social media handle. What do you got for us?
Austin.n.rood. That's Instagram and TikTok.
And I am at Phil Rood on Twitter, at Phil Rood75 on Instagram. And am I Phil the Burn?
Phil the Burn.
Phil the Burn on TikTok. An account created while Bernie Sanders was still running.
Yes.
And you can get all our I'm posting episodes on YouTube. That's Phil Rood on YouTube, and at philrood.com I'm making the blog post for him.
Please follow him on TikTok. I peer pressured him into it.
Don't follow me on TikTok. I do almost nothing with it.
It's true.
Go follow me somewhere where I actually am.
Okay.
Austin, you want to read our credits?
Sure. We do everything ourselves.
There you have it. We'll see you next time on The Picture Show with Austin and Phil Rood.
See you guys. Feels weird recording like the day after.
The day after we just recorded?
Yeah.
No, we're doing these a week apart.
We can pretend in the episode.
That's right. Well, last week...
Those suckers won't know what hit them.
Idiots.